Okay, so I've pre-measured everything and I've already dissolved the yeast and the maple syrup into the water. And when I add the liquids into the flour, I like to do it in a few passes, trying to spread it out as much as possible, shaking it as well. Obviously this video is sped up, but hopefully the stopwatch will give you a better sense of how much time it takes to do things. I mean, in this case it took nearly 6 minutes. Don't stress if it takes longer though. Making Biga No Stress with 65% of the water as opposed to the classic 45% is different. The Biga will clump into bigger pieces quickly, and it's very sticky. But it only means you need to get your hands in there and pull things apart and shake and scrape as you see here. When you're done, you add the Biga back into the bowl, cover it with kitchen film. I also use an elastic. And then we leave it on the counter at room temperature for an hour. So without speeding up the video, this is what the Biga looks like when you're finished. Covered on the counter, room temperature for 1 hour. After an hour, you put it in the fridge for 48 hours. So after 48 hours, it's time to close the dough. So you get the Biga out of the fridge, and we start to measure out 100 grams of water, 22 grams of sea salt, 10 grams of diastatic malt powder, 20 grams of wheat germ oil, or as I've done here, you can substitute extra virgin olive oil. Then you add the diastatic malt powder to the bottom of the mixing bowl, and then the Biga on top, and then switch to the mixer. I want to highlight a few things here in real time before I speed up this video. The diastatic malt powder is at the bottom of the bowl because when I put it on top of the Biga, it just made a mess the second I turned on the mixer. So you begin slowly and you add water, always with the mixer at a slower speed. And then when things get absorbed a bit more, you speed up the mixer to ensure that things get mixed efficiently. And the key to understanding when to add more ingredients to the dough in the mixer is to really keep an eye on the stainless steel bowl, because when the dough mass sort of forms and pulls itself away cleanly from the stainless steel bowl, that's your clue to add more ingredients like the water or the salt. Well, it's actually in that order: water, salt, then oil. You add little bits of water progressively, and then when you have one last portion of water left, you add the salt and that last little bit of water at the same time. And then when that's all absorbed, you add the oil, and then you'll notice I'm using a digital thermometer here to monitor the temperature of the Biga. We're going to mix this until it's 24-25 degrees centigrade. All of the ingredients will have long since been absorbed, but to get that smooth, silky appearance on the dough, that happens when you've mixed the dough to that temperature. I also use a spray bottle filled with water, which I'll use periodically to give some spritz. It sort of bumps up the hydration a bit, but moreover it makes everything move quite smoothly in the mixer as you're mixing. So when the dough gets to 25 degrees, and in this case it took just over 17 minutes, we cover it and we let it sit for 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes, turn on the mixer just until the dough pulls itself cleanly away from the stainless steel bowl, and then you transfer it to the counter. Once it's on the counter, you oil up the bowl, you oil up your hands, you do a few reinforcing folds, then you oil the top of the dough in the bowl, cover it, and let it sit to bulk proof for 1 hour at room temperature. After a 1 hour bulk proof, it's time to form our dough balls. We measure out 280 to 300 gram dough balls, and I've recently been using old takeout containers to hold each dough ball. I lightly oil the bottom and then the insides of the lids, and they're really convenient, I find, for storing anywhere in the fridge, and they also maintain a round dough. I also find it easy to form the dough balls in a lightly oiled measuring bowl. This is how I make a dough ball in the bowl. I'll make this one outside of the bowl to show you what I do. It's kind of like making an upside down dumpling, where you pull from the bottom and sort of seal it at the top as best you can, and then you turn over the dough ball and do a final shaping, and then into the takeout container. Now, we leave these dough balls out on the counter at room temperature to double up in size. And the amount of time that takes varies depending on where you are, what time of the year it is, what temperature your room is at, but It's between 2 and 3 hours. If you're wearing shorts, it's closer to 2 hours. If you're wearing pants and a light sweater, it's probably closer to 3 hours. First, I want to show you how this dough cooks up in a home oven on a pizza stone. So when you're ready, you flip over the takeout container and let gravity take the dough onto a generous semolina flour base. And you add more semolina flour on top, everywhere you can. And you stretch out your dough. I prefer canotto style. Then you add tomato sauce and Parmesan Reggiano, and we par cook the pizza with just the sauce for 3 minutes. And after 3 minutes, we pull out the pizza, we add the remaining ingredients, a little bit of olive oil to the crust, and then back into the oven for another 3 to 5 minutes. In this case, from beginning to end, it took just over 11 minutes, including the time out of the oven. And the oven was set to maximum, which in my case was 550, and it was preheated for about an hour before I started everything. And now let's see how this dough cooks up in my wood-burning pizza oven. Since this is Roberto Susta's dough recipe with a small technique change in making the biga, it would be a bit weird if we didn't make Roberto Susta's famous pizza fiocco. Again, we flip the takeout container, let gravity take the dough onto a semolina flour base, you stretch out the dough, canotto style, then we add whipping cream, cooked ham, fior di latte mozzarella, mashed potatoes using a potato ricer. Then we add Parmesan Reggiano, olive oil, salt, and pepper.